In the previous episode, we covered episodes 1 to 6 of Kingdom of Ruin. If you haven't seen that video yet, make sure to check it out before you start this one. Having survived the battle between the witches and Rydia's troops, Adonis finds himself filled with more anger than ever. Standing at a crossroad amidst it all is the recently revived Doroka, faced with a decision to either join Adonis on his genocide or to control him into being the witch's puppet. Awaiting the transportation circle, the Empire prefires their weapons, expecting Adonis to come through the other side. Suddenly, instead of spawning inside of the circle, the coordinates are switched, ensuring Adonis's safety. Although Adonis was able to change the locations, he wasn't able to pick one. Adonis and Doroka look into the horizon, preparing themselves to conquer Earth. Adonis tells Doroka to hurry up so they can conquer Earth, but she only wishes to be with her people. Doroka asks Adonis to send him home, but he tells her there is no home. Adonis then replays the fight where she witnessed the humans kill her brethren. Doroka reveals she has always wanted to meet him, wanting to know what kind of person Chloe's apprentice was. She tells him he was her hope, and if they continue fighting, it will be an endless battle. She urges him to go back to attempt and resurrect Chloe again, but he tells her Chloe is too precious to come back to Earth. Adonis tells Doroka that the witches' sacrifices weren't in vain, having aided their escape. Adonis eventually gets tired of Doroka's complaining, so he shouts at her to be quiet. Adonis throws her down, not being able to come to an agreement. Doroka, still not giving up on him, jumps atop him and shows how much she cares for the witches, pleading for him to help her. Adonis doesn't fold despite her seduction and tells her if he gives up on his revenge, he would have nothing to live for. Having lost a lot of blood, Adonis lays under the moon until he is spotted by a group. The group reports his location and decides to see what they are up to. Adonis wakes up in a strange room but isn't fazed after how many times it happened to him. It is revealed he got there after being saved by the bikers who found them. One of the bikers approaches Adonis, asking if he's ever killed someone. He introduces himself as Punch, the leader of all the bikers. Adonis asks Punch what they did with Doroka, knowing she is a beauty. Punch tells Adonis to follow him, and they head outside to view their current location. Adonis hears Doroka screaming, and he asks Punch what they are doing to her. Punch makes it sound like she is getting taken advantage of. So Adonis rushes in. To his surprise, she is screaming from being unable to control the motorbike. Doroka, unable to control the bike, falls off and presents Adonis with a small figurine. Adonis, too cool for such a childish toy, throws them out, knowing they'd just be extra luggage. Later that night, Doroka decides to serve the bikers alcohol while dressing up in a cute outfit. A drunk old man attempts to touch Doroka, but she outsmarts him. While Doroka is having fun, Adonis watches her talk to the biker dudes. They ask if they are dating and what they are doing out in the middle of nowhere. She tells them they are just traveling the world, unable to reveal they are fugitives from the Empire. Suddenly, all of the men begin to faint, and Adonis emerges telling Doroka he put them to sleep. Adonis ravages their bodies looking for valuables, eventually stumbling upon a gun. Doroka, thinking Adonis will kill them, reminds him of all the help they have given him. Adonis responds by telling Doroka, after recent events, he has no use for her, so he tells her he is leaving. Doroka attempts to persuade Adonis not to leave her, but his resolve is strong. Doroka, having not followed him, sits outside the gates of the bikers' hideout, awaiting his return. Still convinced they are dating, Punch tries to reassure Doroka there are other men out there. Before Adonis leaves for good, he looks back and remembers all of his memories with Doroka. Adonis notices someone pursuing him, so he readies his magic to fight back. Punch refers to Adonis as a witch apprentice, revealing he has known his identity the whole time. He tells Doroka of a moment when Adonis and Chloe saved him while starving in the desert. He gives Doroka words of advice, telling her she can change his revenge. He asks Doroka what she's going to do, and she tells him she won't let him die. Doroka approaches Adonis, urging him to try and keep up with her, while she speeds away on the bike. Adonis smiles and realizes it's nice to have some eye candy like her around. Overlooking some kind of event stands Oz at the top of a building. It is revealed the event is holding a documentary of the late king of Rhydia. They announce they have surpassed witches in power and science thanks to the emperor. The announcer praises the king's past achievements, but tells the people there is a new emperor. Emerging on a podium in the center is Queen Dorothea, striking a pose that excites commoner and noble alike. She begins singing a song and captures the heart of everyone watching, causing every man to have a nosebleed. The excitement of her dance seems to be contagious. The queen ends her song and dance by telling everyone she loves them. Watching this show is a group of men who don't seem as excited as the people in Rhydia. While she's singing, limbs of people fall off, causing a huge massacre due to her magic. To close her performance, the queen summons a crown upon her head and stares into the audience. Meanwhile, the crazy witch hunter is stuck in a desert, only being able to watch her performance from afar. The witch hunter reveals he got pretty far thanks to him holding Yamato's phone, but he's since disabled it. The witch hunter reveals tons of hands and decides to send them out to search for Adonis. While this man searched, Adonis seems to have caught up to Doroka, and the two of them ride to Rhydia. Adonis tells Doroka the one condition for her joining him is to not get in his way. He tells Doroka he wants to confirm her power, making any man fall in love with her upon use. Adonis asks her why she didn't just use it on him and kidnap him. Doroka tells him it's because he wouldn't like being controlled. Adonis decides to show off, jumping off a cliff into water and still riding. He summons fairies to follow them along their journey, making Doroka smile. The two of them eventually arrive at a small town but observe that it is all run down. Doroka asks Adonis if he is sure that there are people living here. Adonis, also confused about what happened to the town, tells Doroka to stay put so he can look for any signs of life. Doroka begs Adonis to allow her to accompany him, assuring him she won't get in his way. Adonis notices her big bag, so asks what all she is carrying. Doroka shows him the contents, including a snowman pop-up tent that has just enough room for the two of them. As they explore more of the town, Doroka begins to wonder if there are ghosts in such a deserted town. They eventually arrive at a police station and decide to investigate the inside, hoping to find some kind of clue to the people's disappearance. Despite telling Adonis she won't get in his way, Doroka seems to run into every possible hazard available. Adonis tells Doroka if she's too noisy, then he will leave her. Doroka then screams when seeing a hologram police officer talk to her. Adonis explains to Doroka that it's not a ghost, just a hologram, and that she needs to be quiet. As they continue to investigate the building, they don't have much luck, everything being destroyed. They arrive at the prison within the jail and decide to look around the cells. Adonis stops suddenly and tells Doroka to stop as well, having heard something. Upon further investigation, Adonis finds a man singing a song while locked in the cell. Doroka tries to ask nicely for help from the man, but he doesn't hear her, so she resorts to yelling. The man asks who they are, knowing there aren't any more survivors in the town. Adonis asks the man what he's doing in the jail cell, when there's no one there to stop his escape. Having not learned anything useful, Adonis tells them it's time to leave, being disgusted by the atmosphere. The old man finally starts talking, telling the two that everyone left, saying the town was a dump. He asks the man where the closest location to the town is, and the man points them in the right direction. Doroka runs after Adonis, telling him they need to help out the prisoner. Adonis tells Doroka they don't need help, but rather some peace. After saying this, it is revealed the person laying under the covers with the man was his dead wife. The man cries on his wife's shoulder, apologizing. He couldn't protect her when it mattered most. Adonis tells Doroka that the town is only big enough for the two of them, and they need to head to their next location, Mamuta. Adonis tells Doroka they have arrived at their destination, the immigration gate for Mamuta. Doroka asks Adonis if he is going to start a fight, and he tells her probably. She suggests they play rock, paper, scissors, in hopes of bringing his spirits up. Adonis, too cool to do what Doroka does, refuses to play along with her games. Adonis clicks his tongue, knowing that he can't destroy an already destroyed town. As they go further into the city, they stumble upon a naked woman. Doroka rushes to her aid, providing her a coat, asking what happened to her. The woman tells Doroka she is running from something, which leads to Adonis, recognizing it's not a human. The woman reveals herself as a robot and attempts to attack Doroka, but is shot by Adonis. Adonis explains to Doroka that it is a mechanical doll controlled by humans. Adonis and Doroka can overhear the woman's voice moaning within the building. Adonis decides to go in and take care of the rest of the robots, urging Doroka not to follow him this time. While Doroka is awaiting Adonis's return, she stumbles upon a pile of robots. One of these robots tells Doroka to make love to her, which creeps her out. Adonis, on the other hand, is seen lighting up the inside of the building, hoping to find a clue. Contrary to what Adonis told her, Doroka decides to follow Adonis in the building. She fantasizes Adonis getting mad at her if she gets caught. Doroka then remembers what happened last time she didn't follow his advice, him telling her he doesn't need her. She decides to reconsider following him, knowing that he will get ticked off. Eventually, Adonis catches on to her antics and confronts her, asking why she followed him. Doroka tells Adonis they should stick together so they don't get lost, and because she has all of the supplies. Adonis thinks rationally and eventually agrees to continue letting her tag along. They continue down the long hallway until they eventually reach the voices they heard. They find multiple robot women surrounding a man who looks deceased. Adonis readies his gun and realizes all the robots are produced in Redia. The woman suddenly stops and looks Adonis's way, telling her she's sick of her life. The robot woman asks Adonis why they were made the way they were and that they never asked for such a life. Adonis decides to end the robots' despair, shooting them in the head. While Adonis and Doroka are venturing around leisurely, two members of the seizure special unit approach a roadblock. The two recognize them as Redia soldiers and decide to charge right through them. Although the soldiers attempt to stop the two, they are too slow to react to the incoming attacks. Adonis tells Doroka, with the state the world is currently in, it's only normal to assume humans would create robots for such duties. Adonis tells Doroka, despite how many robots there are, it still wasn't enough to satisfy the people. Adonis and Doroka head towards the large pile of robots and use some kind of machine. Adonis tells us that he is making an EMP to hopefully put all of the robots to rest. Doroka recognizes what Adonis is doing and asks if the EMP will hurt them. Adonis pairs the machines with his magic to send a pulse to the robots, ending their suffering. Having recognized Adonis's good deed, Doroka is brought to tears, glad she decided to join him. The seizure special unit is seen overlooking Adonis, planning their surprise attack. The two spill their plan to hopefully bring Adonis to their side and use him against Redia. While these two jump into the battle, the witch hunter is seen overlooking both parties. He decides to intercept their plan, causing the two seizure unit members to attack. Doroka prays to a grave, hoping that all the people who were made into robots will rest easy. Adonis tells Doroka no matter how much praying, humans will always be this way. Adonis tells Doroka he is the reason that her friends died and asks her to reconsider traveling alongside him. Doroka tells Adonis that she trusts him, and the only reason he killed the witches is because they went after his power. Adonis, satisfied with her response, apologizes and tells her for the third time she can continue traveling with him. Doroka tells him they are officially a team, to which Adonis asks her what she brings to the team. As they continue walking down the street, they are stopped by the witch hunter staring at them. He introduces himself as Shirosagi and tells them he is a big deal in Redia. He tells them he has come for their heads, so Adonis readies himself for battle. Watching this all go down is members of the Redia intelligence group, tracking his every move. Shirosagi tells them thanks to the intelligence group he was able to find them. Adonis asks Shirosagi about the two heads he's holding, asking if they are his friends. We then learn of what happened during the battle between the two, revealing Shirosagi's strength. He tells Adonis they were in the way of his plans, so he decided to kill them. Doroka protests his actions, telling him to stop making the two heads kiss. Shirosagi closes the distance instantly to Doroka, asking if she likes kisses. Adonis doesn't let this slide, so he attempts to land an attack but is kicked back. Adonis, however, doesn't falter, using his gun to shoot back. Forcing Shirosagi to be cautious, Adonis gains enough time to use an attack, shooting a bullet the size of a building toward Shirosagi. Shirosagi easily dodges and rushes towards Adonis, making Doroka use her magic. Doroka gains control of Shirosagi, and he stops moving, but when she attempts to force him to tell them information, he breaks out. Shirosagi praises her and says, "No wonder she looks so similar to the queen. Although they are similar in looks, we shouldn't forget that the queen was the one who forced the emperor to commit suicide. Driven by the love spell, the emperor still loved the queen, even upon his death." Doroka wonders why her love spell isn't working on Shirosagi until he reveals there is a love spell already cast on him. Shirosagi then reveals a Class 10 weapon embedded on his back, called Hummingbird. Following his announcement, he sends out hundreds of hands, surrounding him, ready to strike. Adonis tells Doroka to run away, knowing she'll just get in his way. He remembers what the king of Rhedia did to Chloe, and makes sure not to let the same mistake happen again. Chloe, hoping to show she's of use, picks up a big rock and plants her feet. Doroka tells Adonis she will follow him until the end and won't let him die. Shirosagi decides to stand by and watch while the two talk, and Adonis uses his power. Adonis summons armor for his shoulders and a rapier for the fragile Doroka. Shirosagi, unfazed by their pointless additions, tells them they will still suffer the same fate. Adonis explains the sword as a magic-embedded sword, able to cut anything in half. Adonis then pulls out a swordsman's manual, telling Doroka to study it. Shirosagi, tired of waiting for them to stop talking, starts his attack, sending all of the hands in their direction. What was 100 hands turns into only one at a time, giving even Doroka the chance to block. Adonis continues smashing all of these hands until he realizes Doroka is running out of stamina. Adonis then does a 360 kick off the ground, somehow destroying all the hands he comes in contact with. Doroka, not as skilled as Adonis, struggles to fend off the seemingly endless hands, causing Adonis to have to save her. Shirosagi praises their effort but decides to use a real attack this time, sending all of the hands full speed at them instantly. Adonis counters this by surrounding himself and Doroka in a magical shield that attacks all the incoming hands. It strikes like whips, causing any hand, hoping to get close, to be destroyed instantly. Adonis's creation then surrounds him and turns into a ball that rolls toward Shirosagi. Shirosagi responds by calling back all of his hands and using them to stop the speed of the incoming attack. Rather than move out of the way and dodge, Shirosagi decides to brute force it, bringing the ball to a halt. After Shirosagi thinks he stopped the attack, Adonis dashes out of the ball, hoping to land a surprise attack. Shirosagi stops him, however, sending his hands, but Adonis counters this by sending in Doroka to strike with the sword. Instead of showing fear and backing down, Shirosagi smiles at Doroka, while his wounds heal. He tells Doroka next time she stabs someone to aim for the head or heart. He launches Doroka and the incoming Adonis back, bringing them to their knees. Doroka, unable to take a hit, coughs up a bunch of blood. Shirosagi attempts to finish her off, but Adonis uses his magic to trap Shirosagi. Adonis attempts to strangle Shirosagi, but he sends his hands over to restrain Adonis. Doroka steals her resolve, hoping to build up the courage to finish off Shirosagi. To her surprise, a hand comes from behind and pulls her into the sky. At the same time, Shirosagi sends more of his hands towards Adonis, holding him on the ground. Shirosagi breaks free from Adonis's trap and attempts to finish off Doroka. Before Shirosagi can strike, Doroka has a flashback of all her memories with Adonis and tells him she wishes they could have spent more time together. Adonis, still unable to move, shouts back to her and witnesses Shirosagi's hands go into Doroka's face. Doroka screams as the hands drive into her face, plucking her eyes out. Adonis has déjà vu after what happened last time he let his companion be caught. He decides now that she has been severely injured, it is the right time to strike back. When he rushes to her side, he realizes he was too late, as Doroka's face is filled with blood. She tells him she can't see anything anymore, asking what's going on. Adonis attempts to stop the blood by putting his hand over her face, but she assures him she is fine, not wanting to hold him back. Doroka tells Adonis to run, and that she'll catch up with him later. Shirosagi laughs as he displays Doroka's eyeballs in his hands. Adonis looks at him with anger in his eyes and demands he fixes her. Shirosagi continues to antagonize Adonis by spinning and throwing her eyeballs around, eventually crushing them. He asks Adonis what he's waiting for, telling him he's going to take his balls. Shirosagi attempts to use the same kick that got him last time, but Adonis reacts this time, throwing him into a wall. Adonis picks up his quill and stands in front of Doroka, chanting his spell. Adonis sends all of Shirosagi's incoming attacks right back at him, but is unable to land a hit. Shirosagi, having fled to the air, looks down but is surprised to see Adonis and Doroka's location change. Unable to see, Doroka tells Adonis that she trusts him, even though she doesn't know what's happening. Adonis uses the fire on the bottom of the flying hand to stop Doroka's face from bleeding. She reveals her face as being mostly untouched, despite having her eyes ripped out and a torch on her face. Shirosagi continues to search for Adonis, but eventually is overjoyed by Adonis revealing himself. Before Shirosagi charges in, the Redia intelligence group tells him to proceed with caution. Adonis continues to take down Shirosagi but is unable to make much progress because of his speed. Shirosagi charges in again and takes control of the battle, knocking Adonis around. Shirosagi tells Adonis his magic is weak, having such a long cooldown time. Adonis continues to try and force him to comply and fix Doroka's eyes, but he responds with a finishing move. Doroka awakes amidst the battlefield, but is unsure of what to do, being unable to see. She realizes without sight she has no chance of finding him, so she gives up. Before all hope is lost, Shirosagi approaches while holding Adonis in a weakened state. He throws Adonis to the side, and he mopples him in the rubble while proceeding to punch him with his hands. Having done enough to Adonis, Shirosagi rips open Doroka's shirt and sucker punches her stomach. He says he doesn't like hurting her because of her resemblance to the queen. Doroka tries to stand up to him, but is pushed back down. Adonis, knowing there is no other choice, tells Doroka to use her love spell on him and force him to fight. Shirosagi walks towards Adonis, telling him it's time to finish things for good. Before Shirosagi can strike, Doroka uses her love spell on Adonis, giving him the command to fight back. Adonis, being controlled by this power, enters his full state and sends Shirosagi flying with one punch. Doroka displays more of her magic, giving Adonis endless magic and healing all of his wounds. Shirosagi witnesses this all and realizes he has no chance of winning against Adonis anymore. He attempts to flee, but Adonis is too fast, striking him down instantly with an energy blade. Receiving a fatal blow to the chest, Shirosagi attempts to flee but is hit again by Adonis. He realizes not only has Adonis's magical strength increased, but his physical strength as well. Adonis grabs Shirosagi's arm and crushes it to pieces, then moves onto his leg. He rips it off and throws him to the ground. Adonis and Doroka stand above the fallen Shirosagi and decide what they'll do with him next. Adonis uses his magic and announces once the spell is cast, not even his bones will remain. Doroka continues to use her spell on Adonis, making him completely overpower Shirosagi. After finishing his spell, snow falls, and Adonis tells Doroka it's a spell once used by Chloe. Shirosagi tells Adonis that his body can't possibly contain such a powerful spell, him being a human. As Adonis begins to freeze, Doroka uses some kind of flame magic to stop the freeze, bringing Adonis back to normal. Adonis tells Doroka that his spell is complete, and the winds around him begin to shift. Above the sky, a huge spell circle is seen unleashing a massive beam upon Shirosagi. Being frozen from Adonis's ultimate spell, Shirosagi is unable to escape his grasp, causing him to die. While he uses this spell, the biker gang notices the sudden change in weather. Punch looks out into the distance and notices a huge winter storm heading their way, so he tells them to all go inside. The key members of the intelligence group report to the director that they have lost Adonis's current location. One of the members shows the director a picture of the atmosphere, showing a hurricane-like storm brewing up. Having survived the storm, the bikers wonder if Adonis was the one who caused all this snow. Adonis, on the other hand, having saved Doroka, is approached by Chloe, comforting him for his achievement. Chloe turns into a magical wind, showing her gratitude towards Adonis for fulfilling his promise of only using his full power to save another person. Doroka notices herself covered in armor and asks Adonis if he protected her. Adonis, however, is unable to respond, and he faints after using too much magic. Doroka listens in on his heart and is relieved to find out Adonis just passed out. Doroka hears a voice and sees Shirosagi, still alive, asking Doroka to relay a message to the Redia Queen. He tells Doroka to tell the queen that he failed his incarnation despite his hard work. As soon as he finishes his last words, he melts along with the ice, ending the battle for good. Adonis wakes up and tells Doroka he will fix her eyes for her. Running through the city is the Queen of Redia, drawing the attention from men and women alike. As everyone tries to get the best picture of her, they stay oblivious to her true nature. The queen finishes her job and says hello to all of the citizens. The queen is approached by a servant telling her to be accompanied by an escort. Next time she goes out, the servant alerts her of her tasks for the day, and she reminds them what will happen if they disobey her. She then reminds her servant if anyone attempts to oppress her, she will declare war on them. Going back to Adonis, he stands with Doroka, apologizing for taking over his heart. She remembers the cheesy words Adonis spoke while under her control and apologizes. Adonis tells her not to apologize to him, only having beaten Shirosagi thanks to her power. Adonis then urges Doroka to lift her hair, revealing her forehead. He then looks through his bag and decides to pull out a blindfold for Doroka. He urges her to let him know if there is any pain during his healing. Doroka tells Adonis she feels comforted after being held by him. Adonis tells Doroka they need to pack their bags and head out. Doroka almost slips into the water but is caught by Adonis, who refuses to let go of her hand. Doroka asks if he is really okay with that, knowing he has viewed her as an obstacle most of their journey. Still holding hands, Adonis and Doroka walk off into the horizon, ending the series.